And welcome in everybody to Off the Helmets. I'm Brady Tinker. It's Friday. It's the day before Christmas Eve. I've been celebrating Christmas, to be honest with you, all week. I love this damn holiday. One of my older friends, because I'm older, said to me the other day, don't get the payoff for Christmas that I used to get. And I thought, yeah, neither do I. But I so enjoy the buildup, basically starting from Thanksgiving on, that it still means everything to me. I went to my daughter's house last night. She gave me a card. She hugged me and told me I was the greatest, and I never felt better. So happy holidays. Merry Christmas to all of you, however it is that you celebrate. Please do it with friends and loved ones. And let's get started. The shocking nature of last week's overtime loss to the Jaguars was being talked about pretty openly in the Cowboys locker room after the game, and even on Monday and Tuesday as they got back here to the Star. Michael Parsons all year has called out his teammates' tendency, not his teammates themselves, but his teammates' tendency to go a little rogue on the defensive line. Sometimes we think we see stunts, especially amongst the tackles or in the middle of the line. And they're not stunts. These are just guys just making shit up, which then on occasion leaves the Cowboys gashed in the middle for runs. That was something they've had to shore up, and they've actually done that relatively well in the last 3 or 4 weeks after having a down 2 or 3 week period. But Javon Curse talked a lot this week, said, we sit and watch film on other teams, and we know they're watching films on us. So, quote, he says, just like we're watching tape on the other guys, well, I can assure you they are licking their chops when looking at us. Just being honest. The indignance comes from the fact that nobody thinks this Cowboys D isn't good. They are good. They are just occasionally flighty, selfish, maybe a little bit lazy at times, sitting on their laurels about how good they are. But now the absence of Jonathan Hankins, we'll start with that, the defensive tackle that plays inside, that when we got him, we knew he was depth. In truth, in the 4 games that he played, he was excellent. Played more plays here for the Cowboys than he had played at any time for the Oakland Raiders. Was very good, was very solid, was where he was supposed to be. He's extraordinarily strong. He knows what to do inside on either side of the center, just plainly does, and really helps shore up the run defense. Hankins will be back, we believe, by the playoffs, but not for any of these last 3 games. This is all theme leading up to an idea, if you will. The cornerbacks are out. You know this. Jordan Lewis and Anthony Brown were 2 of the starting corners. Jordan at the nickel, Anthony Brown on this side, and then Diggs is still healthy on this side. So those guys, if nothing else, and Diggs certainly is a great player, Anthony Brown an underrated player, and Jordan Lewis the same. Those guys were always in the right spot. So therefore, Dan Quinn could take all these safeties, the occasional linebackers. He could have this defense doing a myriad of things. And in the first 6 games of the year, when the Cowboys really needed it, they were awesome. But since Jordan Lewis and Anthony Brown are out, Deron Bland has had to come in and play, a 5th-round pick this year. He's been excellent. How good? Well, he leads the team in interceptions with 4, which is a little surprising because Diggs is on your team. And he's second in passes defended with 6. And if you watch Deron Bland, the number one thing that you see from him that you don't see from Kelvin Joseph is confidence. I watch Kelvin Joseph play and on the practice field. I've watched him in training. I look at him and I'm like, he's a great athlete. Picked in the top 3 rounds. I can't remember whether he was round 2 and Nashawn Wright was round 3 or the other way around, but it doesn't matter. Both picked in 2021 in rounds 2 and 3. Those are high draft picks. These guys need to give something to this team beyond special teams tackles. Kelvin Joseph really got his chance last week, and by all accounts was pretty terrible. As a matter of fact, got benched towards the end of the game. Nashawn Wright came in, and he was clearly different and taller. So he'll certainly get an opportunity this week. Jonathan Hankins out, Jordan Lewis out, Anthony Brown out, and Leighton Vander Esch is now out as well. So who plays cornerback? Briefly, it'll be Kelvin Joseph, but probably not. He got benched. It might be Nashawn Wright. It could be Mackenzie Alexander, who the Cowboys traded for 3 or 4 weeks ago when this whole thing began to fall apart a little bit physically. He's probably got the most veteran ability and has played the most games. He was drafted, I think, in 16 in the 2nd round by the Vikings. Has been a pretty good player for them through the years. Has started quite a few games and has flatly just played a lot of plays. So Mackenzie Alexander is a name that will probably be in front of you on Saturday, and you'll be like, I don't know who that is. Recently traded for. You might also see Israel Makawuma from South Carolina, played mostly safety for this team for the last couple of years, but he's a guy that was drafted in 21 later in the draft, and the Cowboys have always really liked him. He did play cornerback at South Carolina, so he's another candidate. I don't think I'm going to try and figure this out, and I don't think you should either. I'm coming to a point. Leighton Vander Esch now is also hurt. It looked bad, and we always automatically think, is it the neck? Is it where fusion surgery was had? Is it the thing that's given him trouble? To be honest with you, since all the way back into high school, we thought so, but it's not. MRIs came back clear. It is not. It is essentially a bad stinger, which you hear guys getting all the time, right? Their neck gets just at the wrong position. And even though they lift a lot of weights, it gets jammed and they have a stinger. It's terribly painful, but it is something they will get over. The estimation is Vander Esch is definitely out this week, probably out next week, and maybe plays in the last game of the year against Washington. If not, he'll be back for the playoffs. Who replaces him? Well, could be Anthony Barr, who's been pretty darn good this year, but he's a little bit longer in the tooth, therefore slightly slower. Therefore, you can expose him if he has to chase a running back or if he's assigned to a tight end, whatever it may be. Good, but not great. The guy who's been getting better every week, who we didn't even think was going to play this week, again, another testament to the draft, is Damone Clark, the rookie. Now, you'll remember they drafted him in the 5th round. They had him as a 2nd or 3rd round pick. And then at the combine in Indianapolis, he did routine x-rays, MRIs, whatever it is that they do there. And somebody said, oh, you need neck fusion surgery, very much like Leighton Vander Esch had. Only the difference was Vander Esch was hurt. Everyone knew it. He's had a couple of those major surgeries. They've threatened his career a couple of times, but he's now doing well. Damone Clark didn't have anything wrong. He played all through college, all through high school. He didn't even know anything was wrong. But they got a whole bunch of people to look at the x-rays and the MRI, and they're like, yep, you're going to get really hurt if you don't have this surgery, and no one probably in the NFL will let you play as you are and have that risk for you and for their team. So he had the surgery. The Cowboys drafted him in the 5th round. Didn't really think he was going to play this year. And then when he got activated, it was a great story, and everyone's happy because he's been in the building over and over and over and over, first in, last out, that type of thing, learning all the plays, learning how to be a special teams guru, and hopefully maybe someday he'll get a chance to play. And boom, he's playing 4 weeks ago, and he's been playing more plays than any of us thought he would play, and he shows up as very, very strong and forceful with everything he does, yet much faster than you would think. So at this point, rookie Damone Clark, rookie Deron Bland are 2 pretty damn good picks for the Cowboys, all the while we're bitching about Kelvin Joseph and Nashawn Wright, who were 2nd, 3rd round picks in 21. The point to all of this is I'm not trying to figure this out. I'm just trying to give you the information of who's who, who's hurt, where we go from here. Most likely, Leighton Vander Esch and Hankins can and will return for the playoffs. So that's 2 of those important 4 guys that the team has lost. We're not trying to survive them, though, in these last 3 weeks. We are trying, the defense, to get better, right? To get back to where they were weeks 2 through 8 or 9, definitely. I mean, when you look at the Cowboys' 10 wins, I went through them this morning and I was like, I can give probably 7 of these 10 wins to the defense. Wouldn't we agree? We really thought 4 weeks ago we had a top 5 defense, and statistically we did, and I still believe we have something resembling that. Other than the injuries. So Dan Quinn, it is prove it time for you. And that's where I was going with all of this assessment of the defense. It is time to do it again. After week 1, a 19-3 loss to Tampa Bay that was much worse than that. We all know it. This team looked overmatched in every facet. Tampa was too Tom Brady, too good, too experienced, too ready for week number 1, too physical, maybe, too fast. I don't think so, but maybe. All of those things occurred to me. What also occurred to me is Tyron Smith is not playing, and we didn't know. We thought week 10 or 11. It turned out to be week 15. Now Dak Prescott's not going to play. It might be week 10. The season's a wash. We all thought that. But it wasn't. And that's where Dan Quinn and Mike McCarthy really stepped in. Okay, the offensive coordinator had to come along, but Dan Quinn and Mike McCarthy really stepped in, slowed this thing down. We are a defense-first team, We are a line of scrimmage process team. Defense, running the football, punting and kicking the football. We aren't going to turn the football over, and this is how we're going to win games. And damn if they didn't. 4 straight games with a backup quarterback. And Dan Quinn set this team up to where in an 8-game stretch, the Cowboys defense gave up 7 touchdowns. 7 touchdowns in an 8-game stretch. That's not very many. And it was schemed, and everyone absolutely knew their role. And at times, 12 or 13 or 14 players for the defensive side of the football were coming in and playing meaningful plays in the game. Everyone gets to play. So everyone was in a good mood, and everyone knew their role, and everyone knew they had a chance to get better and ultimately to play a lot, therefore, ergo, get paid. And plenty of them to make the Pro Bowl, as 3 of them did. So Dan Quinn has their attention and has their belief, and it hasn't been as good lately. And a lot of the grousing that we are hearing in the locker room isn't that we aren't any good. It's that some guys tend to go off on their own. Some guys are losing focus. We've just sort of hit a little rough patch. You know what? In a season that keeps getting longer because the NFL continues to elongate these seasons, you are going to have ups and downs. You just are. No matter how invincible your team is, Philadelphia's been lucky 4 or 5 times. Okay, so the best of teams with the best of records are going to struggle. Kansas City's lost 3 games. Buffalo's lost 3 games. Minnesota's lost a couple of games that were almost inexplicable. I mean, the teams that you think are good, San Francisco sitting on either 3 or 4 losses, you're going to lose, and you're going to have your ups and downs. You're going to have bad breaks, bad bounces. Certainly, you're going to have poorly officiated games. Oh, my God. And it ain't just your team, I promise. I'm from Kansas City. It's my team. It's everybody's team. There's a Carl Sheffers for every NFL team. At this point, it's shocking to me. I don't want to say disgraceful because the league is so extraordinarily successful, but certainly disappointing that week in and week out, there's a guy in the booth sitting next to Aikman or Roma or whoever is there to explain what the official said on the field and why the penalty was called because the guys in the booth don't get it. And you and I don't get it. So let's bring in a guy we've never heard of to explain the rules. Or you could go back to 1968 and or 78 and grab that rule book and put it back into play. So when a tight end dare go across the middle, turn around and catch a ball, catches it, obviously catches it, gets hammered in the back from behind, drops it, it's fumbled, someone recovers it. We all know he caught it. It was a fumble because it was a great hit and it's the other team's ball. It is as simple as that. It is not a football move and 2 steps and look to his left and call home to mom and wave at someone in the stands. That's ridiculous. And it's just gotten worse and worse. But every NFL team deals with it. Every team has its officiating crew. And whether you know this or not, or whether you ever think about it or have heard about it, when the officiating crews come out, who's going to have your game, every NFL team, Cowboys included, spend a bunch of time going back through and saying, what does Carl Sheffers' group do? Well, they call 24 penalties a game. Oh, shit. Better get your hands inside when you're an offensive lineman, etc. Better keep the hands away from the face. Better not breathe on the quarterback, whatever it may be. Most of these crews have picayunes that they call lots. And it's different for each one. So one of the assignments every single week when Monday comes around, you got to get ready for the next game is, okay, who's the officiating crew? What do we got to deal with that's going to be ridiculous this week? And they have a whole group of people breaking it down, setting up video, and everybody watches and says, if you do that, which you were able to do last week, but you can't do it this week, it's going to be 10 yards against us. It's going to kill a drive. 1st and 20 generally is a drive killer. So as poor as it feels to me and as shitty as it is when you and I watch penalties and we're like, what did he just call? It's going to continue to happen until something major changes. And I don't know why something major hasn't changed, but it hasn't. So all of those things line up against the Cowboys. The defense is banged up and a little drifty and a little down, but they have Dan Quinn. They still have a lot of really good fast players on that team, and most of them have been here for the entirety of these 2 double-digit winning seasons, which means everybody knows the defense. So cover up for whatever cornerbacks you've got to put out there, scheme it a little bit differently, play it a little bit more conservatively, hopefully wake up your 2 defensive ends and Micah Parsons and get back to sacking someone or at least putting pressure on someone, because I don't understand how you played Houston and Jacksonville, and between them, those 2 quarterbacks threw 72 passes and you got 1 sack. I don't understand that. You're second in the NFL in sacks. Hardly any pressures. Now, yes, they're getting it out faster, et cetera, et cetera. I don't give a damn. There's no way, as good as this defense is, those two defensive ends and Micah Parsons and the occasional blitz and the guys who are also subbing in around them, that this team doesn't get at least 2 or 3 sacks every single game. So 1 sack in 72 dropbacks in the last 2 weeks points to, you fill in the blank. It's things that we don't like. That has to get better, and there's no reason that it shouldn't. But the truth is, here is the realization. Adjustments, as Gil Brandt once ran into a studio that I was working on back in the day at Texas Cable News, and I had said something about Mac Brown, who he was a big fan of. Gil, big UT guy. Gil, a Hall of Famer, brilliantly smart in all things football, and a big fan of Mac Brown's, and I'd pissed him off. So he'd gotten in his car, and he had driven down to the studio and come into my live studio, didn't bother me except between segments, to tell me that I was an idiot and that I didn't know anything about football. And did I know the number one thing that head coaches do in all of football that makes them great coaches? And I said, I think it would be adjustments. And he was pissed off because I was right. Adjustments are the biggest thing. So that story goes to tell you it is now time for adjustments. And it's a major adjustment for the Cowboys, what I believe will have to be done the last 3 games of the regular season. Then we'll see. The adjustment is, this is no longer a defense-first football team. Not now, not for the next 3 games, not with the injuries, not with the illnesses. Oh, my word, there are illnesses. As I watch NFL today, the NFL shows, every team has illnesses everywhere. The Cowboys are no different. Okay, Tank Lawrence is ill. Micah Parsons is ill again. They're apparently all planning on playing, but this illness thing is now 3 or 4 games old too. You never know about that. I'm old. When I feel ill, I lay on the sofa. I don't go play football, and I know neither do you. So these guys are gutting through illnesses, flu-like symptoms, whatever it may be, not COVID, but something is spreading throughout the NFL in the last 4 weeks, and it's affecting teams. This is no longer a defensively operational football team where defense comes first and we play off of that, meaning defense, run, kick, punt, play close games. The truth is, since Dak Prescott came back, this team averages 35.5 points a game. I'm going to double check that. 35.5 points per game in the 8 games since Dak has been back. 36.6 since the Packers lost, which bothered us all so much. 36.6. So here's the major adjustment. Dan, do your best to figure this out. Do your best to cover up for the cornerbacks. Do your best to keep the rotation fresh for the guys who are playing in the middle for the loss of Hankins. And the offense will now take over. You'll get some rest because the offense is going to sustain drives and is going to score 35.5 points per game. In the last 3 games, they're going to take it upon themselves, because the truth is, which unit has been getting better the last 3 or 4 weeks? Obviously, the offense. Dak, despite the interceptions, has been very effective offensively. He really has. Put the interceptions aside. Some of them are bad luck. Some of them are not held by his wide receiver or his tight end not doing what they're supposed to do. So let's put that aside and assume from now on there will only be 1 interception per game, and it will be better timed by the quarterback. Okay? Put that aside, and you know that C.D. Lamb is averaging 85 yards a game, and he has 4 touchdowns in the 8 games since Dak has been back. Also, all 3 of his 100-yard games have been in that time, and you're just visibly able to see it. The offensive coordinator is getting him moving in motion more. Formations are different. There is just something better about the offense, and it has most benefited the Cowboys fans and their quarterback and C.D. Lamb. But they're going to double him. Okay, the throw that went to Noah Brown that bounced off his chest last week, been back through, watched all the video. Bob Stern with the ticket, pulled that piece out and showed it to everybody. C.D. Lamb wasn't double teamed on that play on 3rd and 10. He was triple teamed. He got in the locker room after the game and he goes, I looked around and I saw 3 helmets that weren't mine. Triple teamed. Noah Brown, despite the clank off the chest and the bad luck to many points, game-losing interception, and that's not why they lost the game, has been very good, especially in the last 2 games, right? He's had some knee issues, and he's been slightly slowed, and so his visibility isn't what it was in weeks 1 through 6, but it has been the last 2 weeks. So he has 13 catches the last 2 weeks, 133 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It's good. Michael Gallup has disappeared in the last 2 or 3 games, and I'm yelling at my TV screen, hey, Kellen Moore, Do you remember when the Mavericks had Steve Nash or when they traded for Jason Kidd? The number one thing that they were both great at was they had shooters all around them. What good point guards do when they have shooters is in their mind, they're always aware of how many trips it's been since Dirk got an open look, or since Jet got an open look, or Michael Finley, or whoever it may have been through the years. Point guards and people that understand offense and understand keeping players on the field who are used to doing offensive things involved get the ball where it needs to go. They distribute it, not to one person, but to all of the shooters. Everyone gets a touch. And when everyone gets a touch, everyone plays a little bit better defense and everyone's a little bit better mood. And it is the key to what point guards do. The offensive coordinator is a point guard. So is the quarterback. But the bottom line is Amari Cooper's gone for multiple reasons. But one of them was he would get bored. So the question is, if you're the offensive coordinator and the quarterback, why did you let your best receiver get bored? Throw him the fucking ball. And I say the same thing to Michael Gallup. Was it not 3 games ago that Michael Gallup started the first 2 drives with 3 or 4 amazing catches, playing in different spots, not just running vertical down the field and looking for a 50-50 ball. They moved him around. They ran him in the slot. He had beautiful, brilliant, hard cuts. I think he had 4 catches for 54 yards in the first half of a game 4 weeks ago. And we were all like, he's back. Well, guess what? He hasn't been back in the last 3 weeks, and he can't do shit if you don't throw it to him. So unless you tell me he's just absolutely running asinine routes or he's getting double teamed or triple teamed all the time, which I don't believe, then hey, point guards, offensive coordinator, and quarterback, throw Michael Gallup the fucking ball. Because if CeeDee Lamb is double teamed and Noah Brown you have a question about, then you got another really good wide receiver that you paid a lot of money. You paid a lot of money to keep injured Michael Gallup, who I like personally very much and who is a physical specimen. You paid a lot of money to keep him here. Throw him the ball. Someone point guard this thing, please. Someone. And if it's neither one of those 2 guys, McCarthy, step back in here because you're also an offensive genius. And you're the one who took this thing over for 6 weeks after Dak got hurt and got us through this. So someone step up and make sure the ball gets distributed and disseminated to all of the talented people. Dalton Schultz, Michael Gallup, both the running backs, certainly CeeDee Lamb and Noah Brown. And guess what? T.Y. Hilton is here. And I will tell you, T.Y. Hilton has been here now 2 weeks, and he worked so hard the first week because he wanted to play at the end of the first week. He desperately wanted to play last week. And the report that we got from the offensive coordinator and the head coach, he was this close. He was this close to being ready to play. Okay. And I think what that meant certainly wasn't physical. What that meant was understanding and in his mind downloading the offense and knowing exactly what he needed to do on every play. Now, here we come on Saturday, Christmas Eve. They are convinced that he does. And T.Y. Hilton had a quote for you the other day. I've been here 10 or 11 hours a day for 2 weeks. I am absolutely ready. I love this offense. I've gotten in tune with this quarterback, with the offensive coordinator, with the wide receivers coach, with this offense and in the offensive room. And quote, I can still run. So if you, Philadelphia cornerbacks, think press coverage is going to work on me and I'm not going to run by you, you're crazy. End quote. Good. Give me T.Y. Hilton, who I know in 10 years in Indianapolis is always in the right spot, has always been fast. And I wondered about that when he got here. How much longer is he still fast? Can he still be fast? Everyone tells me he's still fast. And then he just told you he's fast. So go ahead. Try and press coverage. Get hands on him at the line of scrimmage. And if you don't have help behind you, you're in trouble. So says T.Y. Hilton. Just the kind of arrogance and or confidence this team on any part of the football field right now could use. Welcome to the Cowboys, T.Y. Hilton. Tony Pollard, Zeke, Schultz, rock solid. Certainly CeeDee Lamb, right? Noah Brown, whatever you think, has made himself into a really good player. And if you go back and find out about his story, it's a wonderful story. Gallup needs the ball more, and T.Y. is here. That's depth. You don't need Odell Beckham Jr. You have what you need, and you have in many ways, and you saw it last week and the week before, really, you have a red-hot quarterback. He's just made a few too many mistakes and or been a little bit unlucky, or his wide receivers or tight ends haven't helped him on occasion to the tune of whatever it is, 10 interceptions in 8 games. He's hot, and it is time to prove it. He's hot, no, not just in throwing the football, but he's also hot and moving around the pocket. For the most part, he's been much better. He's run without any hesitation. It is now the offense's time to step up for this 2022 Dallas Cowboys team. It is. You're going to end up the 5th seed, almost assuredly. You're going to play Tampa in week number 1, almost assuredly. But what you can do between now and then is re-raise the level of confidence and competency of this football team by flipping things a little bit. You have too many injuries on the defensive side of the football, and a little bit of doubt has crept in. And you know what? The defense did their job. Accolades to the defense. 7 of the 10 victories are for you and because of you. Way to go. Okay? We're not taking you completely off the hook, but we are going to score 35.5 points per game in the next 3 games as we head to the playoffs. We're going to go 3-0. We're going to win all those games, and we will have what everyone wants outside of health as you head to the playoffs, and that is momentum, confidence, a little bit of swagger about you that we're back. We are the team that we were in the beginning and the middle of the season, and we're that team now. And we are seasoned and we are ready. We know what happened last year. We weren't this good offensively last year. We were marginally better defensively. But this team has all 3 facets of the game that it can play. They have been a top 5 ranked defense almost all year. They have crept in many important categories into the top 5 offensively this year. And some of them are great. Red zone success, top 5. Third down success, top 5. You want to know why Kansas City, Buffalo, Cincinnati, all those offensive teams constantly are able to turn out points? They convert third down. I remember getting to know Romo in his days here, and I would ask him one day, I said, most important thing. And he's like, in the NFL, converting third downs. I have to figure out how to make the right read and the right throw to convert third downs. Keeping drives alive is how you score points and how you get your defense rest and how you physically and time-wise dominate football games. The Cowboys have been great this year for the most part, especially since Dak has been back on third down. And in the red zone, check and check, you can score lots of points. So as weird as it sounds, it is no longer a defensive-driven football team. It is now an offensive-driven football team, just like it was through all of Romo's years. Only the difference is this defense is capable of being really, really good. And if they get Van Der Esch and they get Hankins back before the playoffs, it might flip back the other way. Or you might just say, you know what? Fucking defense is good. Offense is really good. Kicker, I don't know. The place kicker has been average his whole career, but now makes every kick. The punter's a beautiful thing to watch. We haven't given up much on special teams. You know what? We are what we hoped we were. We are a team on a path towards a championship. We'll see if it happens, but we have all of the bases covered. Coach him up, gentlemen. Mike McCarthy, grab a hold of the offensive coordinator, whatever you have to do, and get Gallup and everyone else back where they're supposed to be. And Mike, we need 35 points a game. Dan Quinn, figure out how you cover up for the 2 cornerback positions when you have to go nickel and dime that you don't really want on the football field right now. I don't give a shit how you do it. Just figure it out because you've got a whole bunch of other good players back there. Might I suggest that we do something to get the defensive ends and Micah Parsons going towards the quarterback so we can affect quarterbacks? Just a suggestion. Cowboys, Eagles on Christmas Eve. Couldn't be happier. I know you're not winning the East, but I do know you've won 10 games already. I know you can go 3-0 right here. This Philly game, be ready for this. Philadelphia has Gardner Minshew playing quarterback. The Cowboys line is now down to about 4.5. Not sure I would tell you where to bet on that one. It will not surprise me if the Cowboys actually win this game handily. It also will not surprise me if this is a war and Philadelphia comes out swinging because they would like to bury your team. Now, you're going to the playoffs, but they would like to let your team and you and the world know that the best team in the NFC and the NFC East is the Philadelphia Eagles, and they didn't even need their quarterback to beat you on Christmas Eve. Let's hope it doesn't happen. Let's hope the offense steps up, scores 37, and grabs a win, and this team gets going the way it needs to go in the final 3 games of the season. I certainly believe what I see here and what I've seen throughout the year says it absolutely can happen. It is time for coaching and it's time for leaders to step up on this football team as we all gather on Christmas Eve to watch the Dallas Cowboys take on the hated Philadelphia Eagles at AT&T Stadium. Happy holidays to all of you. Merry Christmas. Happy Kwanzaa. Whatever it is that you believe in, that you celebrate. Love the people around you. It is the holiday season, and I know that because there's a few presents underneath my tree, and it's 11 degrees outside. Happy holidays, everybody. Off the Helmets will be back next Wednesday telling you how the Cowboys killed the Philadelphia Eagles. Happy holidays. I'm Brady Tinker. We're off of the helmets.